Hi everyone, I wanted to share my fall 2021 EPIK application form with you and how I kind of applied during this process. Like I said, this is from 2021, so just check with the new application to see if there's anything that's different. So to start, I have a 2x2 photo here, and I just put in my last name, first name, and all my personal information according to my passport, your date of birth, your age, and your visa type, so most of us will be E2, and then just fill in the rest of your information. If you're Korean, you're going to fill this out, but I'm not, so I have clicked no for this. If you are, then you will fill out the rest of those sentences. After this, you fill out your interview contact information, so my phone number, my email. I had put my school email and my Skype ID here, as well as the times that I was free in the Korean Standard Time. Next, you're going to fill out your time spent abroad. So I lived in a different country when I was younger, and then I traveled in 2019, so I had filled that out here. And then next is your mailing address, so your house address, just fill that out. For emergency contact, I just had my brother, so you're going to put your relation and their phone number, and then you're going to fill out your education background, so your elementary, middle, and high school, as well as how long you were at these schools from and where they are located. After this, you're going to go ahead and fill out your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, or any other higher institution that you have. So I just filled that out with my city and country and how long I was there, as well as what majors I had and my GPA that was there. Next, you're going to put your English teaching certification or a valid teaching certification. I didn't have those, so I had put my TEFL, my TESOL, whatever in this section. I got mine from ITT International TEFL and TESOL Ltd. I was in the process of this, so that's why it says expected date here, and I had chosen the 180 online class hours. For Busan, I think you do need in-class hours, so just check that. You're going to fill out your current employment status. If you're a teacher or have a teaching position, then you will fill it out in this bottom section here, but that does not pertain to me, so I had skipped that area. Next is any teaching experience. So I was a junior counselor at like a camp, and I did volunteer in Camden City trying to help adults that were trying to get their GED. So you're just going to put your status, what subject you taught, the age range, what country, and from what time and how long it was. Next, if you had already had any teaching experience in Korea, you're going to fill this bottom section out. I didn't, which is why it's blank. And if you have previously taught in Korea through the EPIK program before, you would fill out this section. I hadn't, which is why mine says no, or attended the EPIK orientation. If you have applied with EPIK before, got to the final stage, and then you decided you didn't want to do it, you are no longer eligible to apply again. Just keep that in mind. You're going to fill out your non-teaching work experience and then your salary level. So I was a level 3, and you need to be level 2 or above to be with EPIK. And that's why it says expected, because after I finished my TEFL course, I was level 2. I am now a level 1, so it will increase as you go. Next is the joint application for or dependents. So this is where your husband or wife and your children can be put, and the relationship to you if you want to be put together or housed together. For that, you do have to be married. For your placement preference, I put Incheon, so you just put what city you want to be in. And then for your start preference, if you want to do August for main intake or September and October for your late intake, like when do you want to start in Korea? Next is your additional personal information. So like, is English your language of instruction after the 7th grade? Have you had any teaching contract terminations? I did put that I have a small nose piercing to explain number 3. So if you have any questions you answered yes to, you would just put it on the right hand corner. Are you a vegetarian or vegan? I only eat halal, but I put no. I don't think this would be an issue. I bring my own lunch to school and, eat in my office and warm it up, and it's not a problem. Do you prefer to have the housing stipend instead of the school provided housing? I just went with the school provided housing at first because I don't know anything about the rules in this country. I do live in my own apartment now, and I definitely do suggest having the school apartment first. This is a self-medical assessment, so I said yes to number 1 because, if I had to prove anything, I don't mind going through an examination. And number 9, have you ever received any inpatient or outpatient hospital care? I was a little scared. I don't think what I actually put they cared about. But since I had a little fender bender and then, I had to go to the hospital, get checked out, I did mention that. And then I've been to the hospital a few times for bronchitis and strep throat, so I did want to put that there. They basically ask, normal questions like, do you have any of the following, like allergies, diabetes, or anything like that? Have you ever abused or been addicted to alcohol? Just standard, I guess, medical questions. So you can just fill that out, and then, things like how many alcohol beverages do you have a week. After that is the acknowledgement of EPIK policy, so you can just go ahead and read those things on your own and, answer those questions. They're basically things for your contract, like things like commuting up to 60 minutes or that you're not allowed to have any pets while residing in Korea. You're going to fill out your name and then sign and date the bottom. Now, these are my EPIK personal essays, so answer both why you want to teach English as a foreign language and why you want to teach in Korea. So I said that I would love to teach English as a foreign language because I feel that it would open many doors and opportunities for others. English is also considered the universal language, and helping others learn to speak it would be beneficial for everyone. Korea is a breathtaking country enriched in history, tradition, and culture. Although I currently live in America, my own Pakistani culture values a strong work ethic, family, and respect. As I grow older, I find myself wanting to live my life with these things in mind, something I'm not able to do in America. Teaching in Korea would not only give me this opportunity, but also help me gain valuable experience and knowledge in a country that I can use for years to come. Koreans have a natural tendency to desire greatness and success, demonstrated in their incredible education system. Teaching to those who already have that positive learning mindset ingrained in them will be beneficial for everyone involved. I will be able to dedicate more time to learning and reading material if students are eager to learn. Korea's low crime rate and incredible reputation for safety attracted me towards teaching there, especially being a female. I have previously worked and lived in a few of the most dangerous cities in America. Korea is considered to be one of the safest countries in the world, and that was a big reason why I chose it as my teaching destination. That safety also means that I can be comfortable in navigating and getting around the country on my own. As previously mentioned, I come from a culture with deep family values, so my safety would allow my family to be at peace and not worry about my well-being. Finally, teaching in Korea would allow me to make connections with native speakers, which will help me in understanding the Korean language on a higher level. I've started learning Hangul on my own, but having someone to have a conversation with would greatly improve my speaking abilities. Next, I have the explain your teaching philosophy question for my personal essay. So I said that my philosophy on learning begins with the idea that everyone learns differently and lesson plans must accommodate for all types of learners. In the classroom, I plan on implementing a variety of teaching techniques so that no one is left behind and individual learning styles are supported. My lesson plans would ensure that students are able to gain as much knowledge as possible, regardless of whether they are an auditory, visual, spatial, or kinesthetic learner. For learning to be conductive, I believe that a teacher's role is to figure out what type of learner a student is in order to create a more effective lesson plan. I strongly consider hands-on activities to be essential in education because they're a fun way to keep students engaged with the material being taught. Additionally, technology can be used to bring all types of learners together under one roof. So for example, following a YouTube video tutorial while doing the task in class engages multiple types of learning. Altogether, the classroom should be a safe and supportive space where every student feels welcomed and able to challenge themselves. An essential element of my teaching philosophy is ensuring that students have plenty of time to focus on learning the material. The role of a teacher is to guide and support the students as they encounter new concepts, not to lecture for the entirety of a class period. Teachers should be encouraging students to answer questions, giving nonverbal cues when appropriate, and putting enough detail into the lesson plans. The amount of time that a teacher spends lecturing should be limited so that the time students have to actually engage with the material is maximized. If you need help with this section, as I wasn't a teacher before, I really suggest just Googling it and thinking about, like, if you were a teacher, what are some things you would want to see in the classroom? So next, it says share your thoughts on encountering culture differences. So I said for anyone who plans on living in another country, culture shock is very normal. To overcome culture differences, I believe it's important to be an open-minded and have a positive attitude. I mentioned before that my culture differs from the normal American culture as I am a Pakistani American. I am used to culture differences already, and I'm extremely open-minded as I know there is no right way to do anything. I think it is essential that I manage my expectations when I enter Korea and prepare myself to embrace a new world. I am someone who enjoys learning about the uniqueness of each culture and luckily have some insight into common problems for expats living in Korea. 2 years ago, I traveled with my best friend to Thailand. This was not a vacation for us, but rather a learning experience because those 2 weeks allowed us to fully immerse ourselves in a new culture. We had researched useful phrases to know as well as common etiquette for the country. That trip opened my eyes to all that the world has to offer and makes me extremely eager to learn about how different people live. For a few months now, I've also been in contact with a pen pal from Korea. He has been extremely helpful in explaining some cultural differences to me, such as the no tipping rule that we do not have in America. I believe learning directly from someone who is a native is one of the best ways to deal with culture shock. You are able to learn a great deal when you teach someone about your culture while you learn about theirs. I plan on making even more native friends so that learning about and adapting to the culture will become easier. The next thing is just a questionnaire, like how did you learn about the EPIK program? So I put Google and YouTube, but I actually learned about it from TikTok. So yeah, just go ahead and fill that out. The next thing is probably one of the most important things. It is your lesson plan. So this is a sample lesson plan and will show the recruiter or whoever what you're capable of pretty much. So for my grade level, I chose elementary because that's what I wanted to teach, and the ability level, I chose beginner. This was actually a pretty well thought out lesson plan because it's actually one of the biggest lesson plans I teach here in Korea every year. So my topic is learning about classmates, and in the previous class I said that we learned all our classmates' names. We learned common phrases to ask questions such as do you, are you, did you, were you, and the 5 W's and 1 H. So who, what, when, where, why, and how. We learned when each of the phrases above was appropriate to use and learned some common verbs to describe the activities such as like, love, enjoy, and some other action verbs such as play, study, watch, or read. Students also learned about some common activities that students do such as homework, studying, watching TV, playing sports, and then we learned how to answer questions, for example, yes I did or no I do not. That for my additional handouts, I would use a PowerPoint presentation and 2 sheets of paper with images of the above activities that each student would get. The images have blank spaces underneath for students to fill out, and all of the activities students could pick from were found in a box at the bottom of the second sheet since this is a beginner's level. For the objective, students should be able to combine correct question words with specific action and non-action verbs and incorporate learned sentences to ask their classmates questions. The key expressions, we want them to use question words with verbs to form sentences in order to learn about classmates, and I put an example Q&A there. So do you like to study? Yes, I do. And then they can ask additional questions based on that, like what do you like to study? So I want students to use these key expressions to ask other questions as well as answers for themselves. Our target vocabulary for this lesson was do you, are you, were you, did you, and some additional vocab was the questions. Is the greetings and review time, so I spent about 5 minutes for this. I said to start the class, we're going to ask students how well they think that they know their classmates. Once they answer, ask them to use one statement sentence to describe one of their classmates. Once we get a few answers back, the review will begin, and we're going to show the class the same PowerPoint that we used from last class. So this is all pretend, So students should be able to distinguish the different words based on the images shown on the screen. Students will then be asked if they remember how to ask additional questions if needed using words learned last class. These words will be reviewed using PPT slides once again. Once completed, the teacher will ask if students would like to get to know more about their fellow classmates. When the students reply, the teacher then reveals the objectives of today's lesson plans. Explain that students will use learned words to play a game in which they will ask their classmates questions in order to learn more about them. This is the development presentation section, and this is what takes up the chunk of your class time. So mine is 30 minutes. So to begin, students were shown YouTube animated clips that showed the actions being done in order to show different verbs. The students will receive the same papers from last class to observe their growth. The papers will have images of the questions and actions with the vocab box at the bottom. Students will fill in the boxes underneath the pictures while going through the clips. This will keep students engaged and is geared towards all types of learners, so auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. Once videos are done being shown, students will go over the sheets of papers with the teachers and key expressions. Vocabulary will be further explained if needed. Students will then receive a find someone who sheet in order to play the game. Rules for the game will be explained and any questions will be answered before beginning. So next, my PDF is out of order, so we're going to skip that one and go to the 10th page. Next is practice. So students will be given the option to take a cheat sheet, which I would make beforehand, with the key expressions and vocab. Students will be given a sheet for find someone who in order to play the game. Students will be allowed to pick who they would like to talk to, but cannot use the same person more than once. Students will then use key phrases and vocab learned from the last 2 classes to ask their classmates questions and note their responses. If, for example, they're looking for someone who likes to study and their classmate does not, they must move on to another student. So an example scenario is, do you like to read? Yes, I do. Did you enjoy reading? No, I did not. So the game is played until their entire sheet is filled out for all of the students. Once completed, students will be asked one by one to play out a scenario of their choice with another classmate. For example, the scenario above will be done in front of the class for everyone to see and learn from. Students will be allowed to pick numbers 1 to 15 using a cup and 15 numbered papers in duplicate. This corresponds to the order in which they will go up to the front and how they will be paired up. So after this is the production part of the lesson plan. So I said that students will go up to the front of the class in the order of the numbers they picked and will be paired up using the same numbers as well. Even if the students had not asked each other questions during the original game, they will pick a scenario of their choice to speak out loud. Students will be given 5 minutes to find their pair and come up with a scenario, otherwise one will be given to them at random. Students will be allowed to have any papers with them if they would like, but will not be allowed to ask other students or teachers for help. If a pair is struggling, teachers should ask other students to offer words of support so that the pair will be more determined to solve it on their own. Once the scenario is complete, both students will be asked a similar question to ensure that they understand the vocabulary. For example, if the student asked, "Did you study?" and the answer was, "Yes, I did," the teacher might ask how the answer would change if they had not studied. Once all pairs have completed the activity, the class will be asked to return to their seats and hold up a thumbs up if they understood or liked today's class, or thumbs down if they did not. So the next thing is the conclusion, summary, and closing, which would be for 5 minutes. So I said to end the class, students will once again review the key expressions and phrases used in today's class by watching animated clips and following along. Students will then be tested with no cheat sheets or other papers allowed by getting a random scenario from the teachers. For example, the teacher may ask, "How would you ask Sumin if they like to read?" Or "How would you respond if asked this question?" All the students should reply with the correct answer. The next thing is the evaluation of objectives. So I said to evaluate that the students understood the lesson, they will each have to answer a random scenario given by the teacher. This can be a question or an answer. Students will also be encouraged to see if anyone can go one step further and ask an additional question using the 5 W's and 1 H that we learned in class. Students will be observed to see if they are able to do this independently and how long it takes them to answer correctly. At the end of the lesson, all students will receive praise in order to encourage future learning. The last part of the lesson plan is what is planned for next class. So I said the following class will be an extension of what students learned today. We will shift gears and focus more on additional questions that were asked. Students will learn about descriptive words that they can use in order to give detailed answers. For example, if a student is asked, "Do you like to eat?" and then asked, "What do you like to eat?" They should be able to not only give an example of a food, but also provide a descriptive word. They may respond with the following: "I like to eat delicious pizza." Students will focus on include delicious, salty, sweet, long, short, funny, easy, hard, fast, slow, indoor, and outdoor. So this is my entire application for EPIK that was done in 2021. Again, I am reminding you I did finish it years ago and the application could have changed. So make sure you check everything before you take my word for it. If you're still feeling a little lost or you just have a question that I didn't answer or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment down below and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, good luck with the rest of your applications and hope to see you in Korea.